It was 12:07 a.m. when the doorbell rang, a harsh, insistent peal that tore through the quiet of our suburban home. I don't mean a polite chime. This was a sustained, aggressive buzz that echoed through the house. My heart immediately began to pound. Who in the world would be at our door at this hour? My wife Sarah stirred beside me, a soft murmur of confusion. What was that? She mumbled, still half asleep. Stay here, I whispered, throwing off the covers. My name is Alex Vance, I'm an architect, but before that, I spent a few years in search and rescue, so I tend to be cautious, always planning for the unexpected. My daughter Maya is 10 and she's a bright kid, always sketching imaginary worlds and building elaborate forts in her room. We live in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where the biggest excitement is usually a lost dog. The doorbell rang again, even more furiously this time, followed by a loud, authoritative knock that rattled the doorframe. Open up, property management! A gruff voice shouted from outside. Property management? At midnight? This didn't sit right. Our building's management always sent notices, always scheduled things, and they certainly didn't conduct business in the middle of the night. Yelling through the door, I knew our neighbor, an older gentleman, had recently been complaining about some aggressive tactics from a new security company hired by the building's owner. But this felt different. This felt wrong. I tiptoed to the living room window, pulling back a corner of the curtain. There were two men on our porch, dressed in dark uniforms that looked vaguely like security guard attire, but with no discernible company logos, no name tags. One was holding a clipboard, the other a large, heavy-looking flashlight that he kept tapping impatiently against his leg. They looked less like property managers and more like bouncers. We have reports of unauthorized modifications to your unit's balcony. The voice boomed again. Failure to comply will result in immediate fines and forced entry for inspection. My mind raced. Unauthorized modifications? Our balcony had a few potted plants, nothing more. This was a shakedown or worse. I didn't move. I heard Sarah quietly slip out of bed, heading towards Maya's room. We had talked about this, not in specific terms, but about what to do if strangers ever tried to get in. Maya knew to go to her emergency kit, hidden deep in her closet, and to stay quiet. It was a simple backpack with a whistle, a small first aid kit, and a pre-programmed walkie-talkie tuned to my own. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the front door. They were trying to break in. The wood splintered around the lock, groaning under the force. I had installed extra deadbolts a few months ago, a just-in-case measure I'd never thought we'd actually need. They were buying us time. Dad? I heard Maya's small voice from the hallway, trembling. Sarah was with her. Stay quiet, sweetheart, I whispered back, my voice barely audible. Go to your room, both of you. Hide in the closet, remember? Another sickening crack from the front door. It wouldn't hold much longer. I grabbed the old, heavy-duty flashlight. I kept by the couch and positioned myself behind the living room doorway, out of direct sight from the entrance. My heart was a drum against my ribs. Just as the door finally burst inward with a sickening crunch of wood and metal, a piercing high-pitched shriek filled the air. It wasn't Maya or Sarah. It was the emergency whistle from Maya's room, a deafening, continuous blast that Maya was holding down with all her might. The two men who had just forced their way in froze. They looked around, bewildered by the sudden, unexpected noise. The whistle continued, shrill and unrelenting. It was a sound designed to attract attention, to alarm, to disrupt. What the? One of them started, covering his ears. The kid! The other yelled, pointing vaguely towards Maya's room. But before they could react, before they could even decide to move, a series of rapid, rhythmic flashes erupted from the hallway, followed by a surprisingly loud, buzzing, whirring sound. Maya, quick-thinking as always, had aimed her small, bright LED toy drone, usually used for indoor stunts, straight at them. The drone, still in stunt mode, buzzed erratically, flashing its bright lights, and seemed to dart wildly towards their faces. They staggered back, disoriented by the whistle and the unexpected aerial assault. They were clearly not prepared for a full-on, noisy, flashing defense from a child. The one with the clipboard stumbled over the shattered door, cursing. "This ain't worth it," I heard the other one shout. "Let's go!" Within seconds, they scrambled back out of the house, tripping over themselves, disappearing into the darkness. I heard the engine of a vehicle roar to life and tires screech as they sped away. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the fading whine of Maya's drone as it finally crashed gently into a wall. I rushed to Maya's room. Sarah was holding her, both of them pale but unharmed. Maya was still clutching the whistle, her eyes wide. I pulled them both into a tight hug. "You were incredible, Maya," I choked out, tears stinging my eyes. "Both of you. You saved us." We called the police. They arrived quickly, genuine officers with real badges and understanding faces. They took photos of the ruined door, collected statements, and were genuinely impressed by Maya's quick thinking. They told us these property management scams were becoming more common, but rarely escalated to forced entry. The men were identified quickly. One had a record for petty theft and intimidation, the other for impersonating a building inspector. They were caught later that night trying the same trick at another house a few towns over. It took time for things to feel normal again. We installed a reinforced steel door and more extensive security cameras. Maya, for a while, slept with her drone and whistle by her bed. She used to draw fantastical creatures and dream castles. Now, her drawings sometimes include our house with an invisible force field around it, but always with a smiling inside. People ask me if I regret teaching Maya how to be prepared, how to react in an emergency. If I wish I'd just answered the door and tried to reason with them. And you know what? I don't. Because that night, they didn't just try to break into our house. They tried to break into our sense of peace, our security. And Maya, with a whistle and a toy drone, stood up to it. She didn't want to be a hero. She just wanted to protect her family. And in doing that, she saved us all. So here's my question to you. What would you do if someone pretending to be authority broke into your home in the dead of night, threatening your family? Would you freeze? Would you fight? Would your child know what to do? Let me know in the comments. And if you've ever had to protect your home or your loved ones from an unexpected threat, share your story. People need to know they're not alone, and that sometimes standing up starts with using whatever you have, even a toy drone and a whistle.